Hello there, colleagues, across town, across the globe. It is the 30th of June in the year of our Lord 2022. Congratulations to everyone who made it into this part of the century. I bet there are some of you, though, who are wondering what is going on. And that's why you tune in to see what Paul Colby, that's me, the host, and the investigators have to tell you about the things going on behind the scenes, because you already know what the cover stories are. There's a whole lot that you don't know, but by the end of this hour, you'll be able to be the prince or princess of the water cooler. You'll know what's really going on. I'm not going to do all the talking here tonight. I brought some special investigators with me, and I'd like to introduce them. My first guest, you may never have seen him in this context before, Mr. Frank LeMadier. Frank is America's foremost authority on furniture choices as an indicator of antisocial behavior. I don't know how he came to be the foremost expert. I know that there are really only 3 of them, I think you said, Frank. Frank is also an entrepreneur, and he is responsible for and made a fortune from some of the most popular vaping flavors. I am talking about coconut hairdo and cinnamon truck stop. Probably some of you are relaxing on your sofa type equipment right now and enjoying these flavors. Thanks to Frank.
You know, this took a lot of research. I don't think the general public appreciates just how intense this sort of thing tends to be. I mean, when I come out with something and informing people's lounge choices, first of all, lounge is an oxymoron. Most people, they're very active. They want to sit in front of the TV, but they want to do a stretch, but they want to read a book. I don't even know what we're doing in society anymore. A love seat is an oxymoron.
You're saying they're not really couch potatoes as such.
Oh, but they are a whole garden of vegetables. I don't even understand where this comes from.
Okay. Now, you are the founder of the National Academy of Meatloaf's Air and Space Museum. Is there some connection there to your vaping entrepreneurial activities?
Back in 1984, when I heard the Dashboard Light or the Paradise song, the one time that Meatloaf actually got it right, and yet he had to go and extend it for 7 minutes, and you have the people jiggling at the other end of the ballroom, that was an opportunity missed.
Okay. And I think you cover that, parts of that anyway, in your new book. You've written a book on surviving a smear campaign from the shrimp industry. And I guess a whole lot of people have that problem these days.
Well, when you go to when you go to a zoo, and you've got the primate paddock over here, and you've got the crustacean paddock on the other side, and they actually rise up and merge to form this thing that attacks you when you're on a date. This is something that's part of my memoir that I put out there for everyone. Make sure this never happens to you. You've got a girl with you, you got the 57 vet. Do not allow crustaceans and primates to go and throw their crap on you.
I guess I shouldn't be asking, because this should be obvious, but you're the subject of a new documentary film on negotiating with drunken sailors. I guess, do you get to know these people before they're drunk? Is that how you do it?
You know that Big G cereals exist in Battle Creek, Michigan, right? I assume everyone here is familiar with these basic facts. Well, when Captain Crunch puts you on notice that you have to report to duty, you are in for a wild weekend, let me tell you that.
We'll be hearing more from Frank about God knows what subjects, but let me also introduce you to an investigator that you may have seen on TV or listened to on a podcast. I'm talking about Beth Room, and she is the leader of a global movement, Honesty in Corruption. I think we certainly could use a lot more honesty when people are taking us to the cleaners, things like that. She also is a consultant to a really long study, 20-year study on butterfly tattoos at the Earth-Warming Junior College, right?
Yes, that is correct, boss.
Okay, and a principal investor in the Rotary Mailbox Corporation. I know they're in San Bernardino, but I don't know what a Rotary Mailbox Corporation is or does.
Well, it was meant to capitalize a bit off the current retro fad, and they're a bit like rotary telephones, but in order to get your mail, you have to dial the number.
I see. You wrote a book that is relatively popular. Please don't take a picture of my breakfast. I read some of it. I mean, it kind of moves along slowly. By the third chapter, I guess I had put it down already, but does anything happen later in the book that we'd want to go back and read?
Well, see, I deliberately kept the pace slow because breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I choose to take my time with it.
And I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you're also, right now, you're narrating a film. I can hardly wait to see this. It's about luxury phone booths in Utah's sausage capital. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm looking forward. I know when you narrate a film, it's because you have something to add.
Oh, certainly. We attempted to get Richard Linklater. However, our budget was $10.79, and he said he could not do the film for $10.79, and so this was a labor of love for me.
I already bought the VHS version, which I guess it's technically a bootleg. It's not supposed to be on the street. Anyway, glad you're here tonight. And my third investigator, education, I guess is one of the most famous people in America today. For one thing, he is a pioneer in the field of amateur law enforcement. I guess a lot of amateurs are entering that.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm backing away from that and moving into different phases of my career because it's proving fiendishly difficult to monetize that, given the fact that most everybody in the U.S. carries a rifle and thinks they're responsible for law enforcement.
Okay,
so
well,
I've set that aside.
Because some of us are trained in karate.
Yeah, some of us work on the sidelines and some are on the front lines. You're a spokesman for the backseat drivers of Southern California's guerrilla breathing initiative. I've been guerrilla breathing for a number of years now, but I guess most people are new to that.
Yeah, you have to introduce, I find it's easier to teach them if you start them with a snorkel and a mask, and that can phase right into the guerrilla breathing techniques. I'm very proud of my innovation there.
I'm proud to even know about it. And one thing, you were talking about monetizing. One area where you've done well, you are a chairperson for the committee to rename the national airports. And I guess you're offended that You have
Yeah,
like,
I'm offended that most of them are named after modern politicians. When clearly they should be named after Washington and Jefferson, who fought so hard to protect them during the Revolutionary War.
Or I think-
or in addition, we could name them after baseball players because they know how to fly. It flies.
sacrifice flies you're talking.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, well, I guess you would want to name some of the airports after birds.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
But they
'cause they
have-
also know how to fly, but I mean, just Robin International Airport just doesn't roll off the tongue.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something. Your new book, Cooking with Grass, you're talking about the kind of grass that we see in our gardens, and I
Yes.
guess the idea here is
Well,
food
with
in
people, there's food shortages with
Yeah.
everything going on in the world and inflation, so people are broke. So I'm actually teaching them. You can actually, with a steady diet of modifications, you can modify the digestive tract, so it will actually literally, you can digest grass growing on your street.
Okay. And I guess you cover this in your new seminar. I am really excited. I've already got a subscription to your new seminar on vulgarity.
Yeah, well, and I'll give you the background on that, boss. As you know, I grew up in New England as a New England sports fan, so I have a prolific vulgarity vocabulary. So I'm again, that one's proving much easier to monetize.
Oh, and you do alienate a lot of your clients with some of your vulgar.
Well, if my clients can't take it, then the heck with them. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
all about me, boss. It's not about them.
I understand. Well, my guests here tonight are ready to talk about just about anything that's happening, but the main thing that seems to be happening right now is that the Supreme Court is trying to do as much damage as possible before somebody wakes up and says, stop it. We saw recently Roe versus Wade, we saw it leaked before it was even an official opinion. We're not going to talk about that too much because everybody is talking about that already, but I want to tell you, my people have discovered several other opinions. We're going to sort of leak them for you tonight because nobody knows they're coming. The first one of these in the Supreme Court docket for this year is the case of Oduphus Pinshark. They just call it Oduphus. This is one where Justice Thomas is said to have delivered the opinion of the court, and that's on behalf of his wife Jenny, and by half, that is outstanding news. But I want you to look at some of the text here. They are talking in this opinion about the right to privacy, and they're saying basically that it doesn't exist. Now, the way that they demonstrate that there's no right to privacy, they talk about sports reporters who go into locker rooms, and some of these sports reporters now are women, if I may use that expression, Beth. Women, I know you used to be a sports reporter, for example.
But she transitioned. Is that what you're getting at?
I'm saying that seeing some of these guys in the shower was a little revolting. But the Supreme Court is saying as long as people are wearing next to nothing and they're on television, there is no right to privacy. It's like they're trying to take us back in time, like a time machine. So going back to, well, I'm reminded in the 50s we used to talk about a right to privies, didn't we?
Yes.
I mean, you're old enough to remember that, Ed.
Well, actually, I'm actually old enough that I forget that, but yes.
Okay, I forgot about it too before I looked up this evening.
I try and push the old knowledge out one side of my brain. That's the way to stay young.
Okay, well, that's one. We're leaking that. There's going to be a new decision in Oduphus. There's another one that might concern you. Look at this headline that we got from the Whole 9 Yards Secret Supreme Stories Journal. It's talking about another leak. They're saying that the female sex has no rights at all, because all of the mentions in the Constitution, and you know that's how they interpret it, it's got to be in the Constitution. Well, it mostly talks about men and man and him and so forth. Look at the language here. It's saying while man and men are mentioned often in the Constitution, women are not. So we see no basis for treating them as in some way protected. You heard it here first, no rights for women. But there's even another, we found out about this on the way up here to the building tonight. And it's in a paper for tomorrow, the Before It's News. This is a subscription-only service. I saw it on my cell phone as a text on the way up here. What the robed rubes say that number 2 means. Number 2 meaning the Second Amendment. And they are talking about, you know, the right to bear arms.
Let me tell you, as a Kyudan, karateka in Isshinryu and Shotokan as a combined art, I'm not concerned about their arms.
So, what I was going to say is, this is a decision where it says that the right to bear arms includes tactical nuclear weapons, because it gives the example of a guy using a slingshot and taking somebody out, and a tactical nuclear weapon taking somebody out. So they're basically the same thing, which is why I guess Matt Gaetz, who is a real promising legal mind, and Marjorie Taylor Greene have an amendment in Congress right now for a right to arm bears. So where are we going? That's what I'm saying. Anyway, that's the Supremes for you. So you heard it here first, before anybody tells you about these leaks.
They've never been the same since Diana Ross left, boss. I mean,
No, I think they sing a different tune now.
I mean,
Diana Ross. I'm dealing with cultural children here. Do any of you know when was the last time that John Lennon played before a paid audience?
When was the last time?
Yep.
1974.
Where?
Madison Square Garden. And he played I Saw Her Standing There, which is really a Paul McCartney song. Okay, if I may go on. There is a celebration that's just been going on in the UK, the Jubilee for the Queen, 75 years on the throne. Isn't that exciting? Well, you would think nothing could go wrong when you're having a big event like this, but something did go wrong. First thing that the Queen did when she almost fell off the balcony was she said, "We're going to give Ecuador back to the Ecuadorians." Problem was, Ecuador, as far as I know, was never part of the British Empire. Do you know any different? Nope. I don't see any disputing that.
no, I don't believe so. But I was only 5 years old during those.
Well,
at the time. So.
There could be more than one Ecuador.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
hadn't thought about that.
There's the Spanish version and the non-Spanish version. One has better tapas.
Okay, and if you're hungry, I guess that dictates your
Authoritarianism.
or preference. Okay. Second thing that happened during the Jubilee, the Queen, she turned heads when she said, "I know who you're expecting to be the king next, but I have changed the order of succession." And a lot of people thought she was talking about Kanye West or something. Well, it turns out it's a Russian, one of those guys who moved over there, you know, a big moneyed Russian named Muscovich, and he is famous for making a lot of money with the vacuum cleaner. Before
Yes.
he thought of that,
Yes, the vacuum cleaner. If you don't know what it is, All I have to say is Ubtebia, Nagolovia, Kartoshka.
See, he said it, didn't he?
Yeah, he certainly did.
Well, I think that's what, I think the Queen tried to say that, but she's not real good with Russian. She kind of muffled it a little bit, but that was before the Earl's Parade. Now, let me tell you about that. If you didn't watch the videos, this was terrific. It wasn't really a parade of earls like we know royalty. This was a bunch of guys named Earl who live in London, and they called them by the names of the streets they're from. So I especially like the part where the Earl of York Road was pouring something purple on the Earl of Withers Mead. I've been to both those places. How about you, Beth? Did you have a favorite in the parade?
Oh, I did not attend as I have issues with the monarchy itself.
The monarchy, well, that reminds me, the Queen also said that she's going to pull the plug on the monarchy, but not till 2085. And what time is it now? We've got a while here. Okay.
Is
That's good.
that going to be on the Supreme Court docket? My sources tell me they may make a ruling on whether the Queen has the right to end the monarchy.
We call it overreach, but yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, I believe this would be a good thing because all of my nice things that I bought for my home that were in celebration of the Queen's 90th birthday. I have tea towels and a tea set and an armchair, a lovely wing chair, and they are now obsolete because it is now her jubilee. And these things were very expensive, and that is why I believe we need to abolish the monarchy, as you said, at 2085, although I don't have my watch on, so I'm not sure when that happens.
Oh, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on the clocks or the calendar, whichever it really is.
We need to do something. I think right here we need to start a resolution for a revolution that says that we cannot have any more overreach. We need a constitutional amendment that allows a reach around by one chamber to the other to prevent one branch of government from exploiting another chamber or another branch.
So he's talking about people's sensitive feelings, I guess is what he's saying.
Oh, that type of reach around. my mind went in a totally different direction.
Listen, another thing that just happened recently is Juneteenth. And when Juneteenth came around, we had this same problem with people's feelings and I guess overreach. Because, you know, in Texas and Florida especially, and a lot of places in the country, we're passing laws to make sure white people are not uncomfortable. So on Juneteenth, which usually has a basis for celebration, especially if you used to be a slave, now to make this comforting for white people, we have to change the rationale. And I got a card in the mail from my friends Bob and Jean wishing me a happy 170th day of the current year. Now that's pretty darn neutral, if you ask me. Nobody's feelings could be hurt by that.
You know what hurts my feelings? Is that white people don't understand the etiquette of picnic salads. All right, when you've got potatoes and you've got the raisins in the middle of the potato salad, that is a violation of the first order. That does not respect the needs and the tastes and the social etiquette of people of color, not to be harassed and...
Okay, I think I get it.
What if we were to have goat yoga at the Juneteenth celebration? I would feel much more comfortable with the
goat yoga and the proper Crocs. I think that might make it more palatable for white people, but I think that they have to live with the reality that says that they may have to sit on their couch and not participate, or at least sit to the side and shut up, which is something that I always try to demonstrate in my sense of etiquette to a community like this.
Ed, you were telling me that a lot of white people would like to have, say, the carpenters
Carpenter's
appear?
tribute bands, I think that's pretty much a given. That's
For
gonna be required
Juneteenth.
for any Juneteenth celebration. We'll have to have a Carpenter's tribute band.
Okay.
That may be codified into the Federal Register here soon, is what my sources tell me.
All right. You know, recently we had a messy trial, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and there's been some fallout from that. I think we are going to have a lot more reality TV. For example, this new show I'm looking forward to, On the Rocks, which is going to have like a live camera detailing people's marriages falling apart and stuff like that. That should be very real. Now, unfortunately, I believe they wanted to have a look inside the private life of Ghislaine Maxwell, but turns out she's going to be preoccupied for about 20 years. And they were going to do a kind of a backgrounder on R. Kelly, but it looks like he's going to be tied up for maybe 30 years.
Where was this show, boss, when I was married? I could have made some serious cash on this thing.
Well, speaking of you making cash on a show, Bachelor Vet is another one, and I see that you are prominently displayed on the promotional vehicles for the Bachelor Vet.
Rather a dashing photo, if I may say so myself.
So
boss.
people, women particularly, call you with questions about their Labrador.
About their cats, mainly.
Oh,
Right.
their cats.
Yeah, cats and dogs are what pay the bills, boss. But actually, I prefer working with sheep.
And they actually call just to be able to talk to you, not because of. I mean,
Yeah,
I know,
that's good for just talk. A conversation with me is good for 15 minutes of texting with their BFFs, because I'm just that good looking.
I know somebody who called you recently. I'm not going to name names, but they don't even have a dog or a cat. They just wanted to talk to the Bachelor Vet.
You guys, get a room.
Vet room is right here.
A different room. The two of you. Could you can throw your clothes off. This will be a different show.
Will this involve a reach around, boss?
Listen, I think so, yes. Another show that I'm looking forward to, you've all seen This Old House. You probably watched that if you have plumbing problems or something to get a little tip. But now they're going to have this really old house, and this is going to be houses that they go in and they just tear them up, blow them up, you know, run over them with bulldozers. I think it speaks to a certain, an interest level that people have.
They're very, they get very high ratings in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, I'm told, boss.
I think they do. Let's talk about January 6th Commission for a little bit, because they have really been making headlines lately with their disclosures. But as they tell us more about what went down, we are seeing more conspiracy theories explaining why there wasn't really a planned riot at the Capitol. For example, first conspiracy theory says that a lot of people went to Washington and on the Mall thinking there was going to be a gigantic concert. I don't mean the Beatles getting back together. I mean, a couple of those guys are technically not performing anymore. But a bunch of heavy metal acts like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and the Last Sons of Liberty. Anyway, there was significant promotion ahead of time, and I'm told that's why people showed up at the mall, not because of something a president incited them to take part in.
Plus, there was a rumor also, boss, that Richard Carpenter was going to perform a cappella. So that brought in a lot of white folks as well.
Okay, I noticed most of them were white, yes. The other conspiracy theory number 2, people are saying that these people went peacefully to the mall, but then they stopped at a food truck to have some lunch or some breakfast, something like that. And it was something in the food truck that changed the way that they approached the day.
Yes, boss, the tacos had mild salsa on them, and it was very spicy to them, and they became very angry, and that is what caused them to storm the Capitol.
Well, I was just looking at these pictures taken by, I guess, federal surveillance agencies. We're seeing a picture right now of a food truck that was called the Angry Shrimp food truck. And it was never seen before or since at the Capitol, and that's the one that you think had the very spicy ingredients. All right.
Yes.
To Beth's point, my sources also confirm that they weren't necessarily angry protesters, but they were told the only privy available to them was in the Capitol, so that's why they stormed the Capitol. But my sources are not quite reliable.
I haven't seen any pictures that prove that, but I'm open to the idea. I know another one of the trucks. We have a picture from the National Security Agency. This was a vegan truck, and it even says volatile vegan. So that sort of backs up your theory that somebody put something in the food, and then a bunch of these protesters peaceful people who became protesters got something in their heads after they got something in their stomach. And there was another truck I saw. It wasn't actually a food truck. It was another one promoting this so-called concert, and we already know that there wasn't really a concert. Okay, so theory number 3 I have heard, and this one is really hard for me to believe. This, and you could just call this, you can't believe your eyes. First of all, I am told they hired a bunch of crisis actors. That's what we call them these days. A bunch of people, thousands of people, who got together on a set and looked like they were raucous or somehow, doing rowdy things. But then the backdrop, they had a hologram of the Capitol. And so they pasted over this entire crew of crisis actors over this hologram of the Capitol, and then they played out this simulated drama. Now, when they were putting them together, they had to use a crane to drop all of those thousands of crisis actors on the hologram. You can tell these kind of theories, well, what can I say about them? You either believe them or you don't, and I guess we'll talk more about that later because we have another segment. I don't want to tell you about it now. But if there is any evidence to prove this actually happened, it is the picture I'm showing you now of them tearing down this large hologram after it was all over. So there you have 3 different versions of what actually happened at the Capitol, and it comes down to who you're going to believe. Well, when the committee started making all of its disclosures, that's what we'll call them, we had a 12-page rebuttal from the former president. Now, I know a lot of you just listen to mainstream news and things you can believe, so you probably haven't heard the things I'm going to share with you right now. But we have some highlights from that 12-page rebuttal. On page 3, this is fascinating. The Donald says, "Let me repeat, I did not invent the thorax. I am told that certain insects invented it years ago." The thorax.
He did not, in fact, invent the thorax, as that was Dr. Seuss, it was a favorite book as a child, where the thorax cleans up the environment and the forests with borax.
I may have read that, but like Ed says, you forget things that happened in the 50s.
Now, was that like vacuum cleaning the forest like they do in Norway and Sweden to prevent
Well,
fires
remember, they use vacuum cleaners to clean up the and one reason that they were invented is because of their use in forests and wooded areas.
Very
And
good,
each
boss.
generation-
You're still as sharp as ever, boss. Gotta give it to you.
Each generation, one forester would teach the previous generation, and so on. So like me, I taught my father, and he taught his father, and he taught his father. That's how it works when you've got the thorax and the thorax all cleaning the situation with borax.
And you too have a thorax, right?
I do. I keep it in the other closet.
Okay. Look at this on page 5 of the rebuttals. Donald Trump says he wasn't even near the Capitol. I was in Korea on January 6. A good friend was graduating from the Folk Music College at Bagpole University. So who was that guy we saw on all of the video from that day? Was that a Trump clone, a backup guy?
I would expect they'd have to pay, as a former actor, for me to take on that role. You would have to pay me a lot of money.
Okay.
So if it is a clone,
You're
or a
not ruling
substitute-
it out then.
No.
Page 9. Some people forget that as a young man, I was very interested in Trotsky, but those people at the chess club were always boozing it up. And we know that's one thing that the big guy doesn't tolerate is boozing it up.
I've always suspected that he was more into some of the chemical opportunities, like LSD. For example, the Beatles. Who introduced John and George the first time they had LSD?
Their dentist.
What was his name?
Yuri McShot.
Schwartz of the clan McSchwartz.
Yeah. That's who. Page 11. This is not a Beatle joke. You'll have to figure this one out for yourself. I never pay for sex, not even on days when patriots are storming the Capitol. I'd rather just have a hamburger and a good nap. So,
He never pays for anything, so that doesn't surprise me.
right, exactly. That was my thought. Let me tell you, things were under control. I mean, from the big Trump party point of view, until Cassidy Hutchinson came in and made a few charges, and that really upset them. She said, for example, she said, and don't tell me a chatter. I mean, I want to tell you something about Cassidy first. First, she said, he threw ketchup on the dining room wall. Well, Trump responded, he said, look, when I got here, I told them I wanted red splotches on the dining room wall, but those White House painters were always too busy. They never got around to it, so I had to do it myself. And then she said, well, there was this case of him being driven in the Beast, the presidential limousine, and he tried to grab the steering wheel. The point, as Donald said later, was he saw that they were about to collide with a giant centipede, and you know how he loves giant centipedes. That's why he was going for the steering wheel. And then she said he was jubilant when they were talking about hanging Mike Pence. And Mr. Trump said, no. I was saying I wanted to go hang with Mike Pence. That's the way kids talk. Finally, we have been hearing charges in the last couple of days about witness tampering. And Mr. Trump has said, no, it was witness pampering, because if somebody said I could use another cheeseburger, I was always happy to oblige. So there, that's my 2 cents. But yes, we do have a situation now where the Supremes, and I'm talking about the court, of course, are considering making it normal to have God-given riots. This is being reported in the Big Boys Chatter Journal, which I'm sure a lot of you read. Meanwhile, there is a new movie going around. You probably haven't seen it, but you've heard about it, 2,000 Moles. And this paints a nice picture of the Trump campaign. In it, I think the charge is made that there were 2,000 people who tried to infiltrate the campaign and mess it up. Is that what you've heard, Beth?
I assumed it was about his very terrible skincare habits and that he had grown 2,000 moles in the process.
But Ed, you told me that you think these people who were delivering ballots to mailboxes.
I think what happened is, due again to the lack of food that was going around even back during the election, is people are actually hiding in the mailboxes, and when the ballots are stuffed into the mailbox, they're eating them. And so that's why there's this discrepancy. They don't think they're counting all the votes because they're actually eating them, and they'd have to go to the privy to reassemble them, which nobody wants that job. So.
Morons. Obviously, this is a backdoor reference to Avogadro's number. Does no one know math here?
Math who?
Math Johnson. I went to college with him, and he's all over this. We're behind.
It's still, I'm a little rusty. Is it still 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm glad modern math has not changed.
Math
Avogadro's
Johnson
numbers
was not officially but unofficially an engineer on the project to redesign Air Force One for when Trump was president. They were going to redesign Air Force One. For one thing, they were going to put in a press corps section, and then they were going to put in a smoker so that you could smoke things on board in flight, between continents. And they were going to have a throne room. So the throne room, I think, was going to be a big problem. It was, they wanted it to be solid gold, but some of the early prototype throne room equipment didn't look gold enough. Now they also, on this redesign of Air Force One, they were going to put a tweet machine. And that was because obviously the former president wanted to be able to tweet wherever he was. It's a big machine, but it's not really complicated. That's what I understand.
No, my sources tell me, since it only has to have a vocabulary of 125 words, so I'm not quite sure why it needs to be that big. But maybe that's just sort of a compensation mechanism for Trump due to the small vocabulary. I'm not quite sure on that.
Okay. Now I'm interested and interesting. I was talking about the other day that there were some new polls, and I noticed that tweet machine looks like it has a big new poll, but maybe I'm just imagining things. The press section there, it had a certain button that the ex-president could push in an emergency when he had to get rid of the press corps. And it says, if you press this button, there's no guarantee that their parachutes will open.
But there was another option I've heard that was ruled out. It was you put Sarah Huckabee Sanders to talk to the press, and then they will voluntarily jump off the plane. So that's another way to get rid of them.
Okay.
But that was squashed.
That was squashed. Well, all right. On a final note, during the Biden administration, they canceled all of that, or they say they canceled the plans to redesign Air Force One. I think it was actually because the Chinese companies that were working on it decided to pull out.
Actually, they had Rudy Giuliani. He was going to go and try to get Pollock, but unfortunately what showed up was a fish. On the runway.
On the runway.
On the runway. It was just a boatload of fish. Four Seasons fish.
Were they gefilte fish?
See there?
Not all of them.
Don't look a gefilte horse in the mouth is what they were. I mean, they also used to say 3 right turns is a left, but I guess they were talking about the Supremes when they.
Yeah, well, metaphorically, I think that is correct.
Okay, let's talk about, while we're talking about politics, let's talk about Republicans in Texas because, you know, well, the first thing I want to tell you is John Cornyn, after he was involved in setting up some sort of responsible gun control legislation, he was kind of at odds with most of the Texas delegation to the Republican convention, but people misunderstand why he got booed. I think the main thing that explains why he got booed, look at the shoes he was wearing, okay? They look to me like some sort of hippie type shoes.
Boss, it turns out that he was a bit duped. He thought that the peace signs were in fact Mercedes symbols and that they were a status item.
Okay, well, what I understand is he actually changed his shoes. He went back and got a new wardrobe, and this time the black shoes were okay, but I think they were offended by the pants. That's why he got booed.
I think those are some sharp-looking pants, boss.
They are.
Myself.
They look a whole lot like.
But maybe they're kind of vintage. Maybe that's why you and I are on the same.
Well,
page
I
with
have
those.
some drapes that look just like that. So that's why I like them. But anyway, while these Republicans were, you know, congregating, and then for happy hour they would uncongregate, they passed a resolution. So in this resolution, the essence of the resolution is that they are on board with the idea that Biden didn't win the last election, that something was rigged, that you can't really trust voting machines or voting officials or people who are not Republicans, and therefore they had a resolution. But if you look at the resolution here closely, back up just a minute, I want to say something about this. When they originally were composing this, they said, whereas we, the attendees of the Texas Republican Convention, they changed that, or somebody did, so that it ended up saying, we, the latest group auditioning for seats on the clown car, are very well fed. I guess they had a lot of grass.
Yeah, I actually, one of my subsidiary side businesses supplied them with the grass. It was very high quality, a cross of Bermuda and a local sage grass.
Yeah, that's from your golf background.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I have so many irons in the fire, boss. That
I see. All right. But anyway, what we have in the modern age, we have a bunch of people who think that if the president said something, it must be true. And I was looking at a very erudite journal the other day, the Journal of Linguistic Profundity. And it is saying here, they call the contemporary doctrine lipso facto, meaning if the president says it, it should be regarded as fact. And this reminds me of a time long ago when Richard Nixon said, if the president does it, it's not against the law. Seems to me like we are coming way back around to a, well, I don't know.
Three rights make a left, boss. So,
Yeah.
Or in this case, three rights make
And
360
I've also
degrees.
I've been looking at it, the Journal of Perfunctory Comment. This is talking about supporters of the past president who demonstrate that they can't be shaken from their belief in what are obviously gigantic lies. I mean, it's like these people, no matter what facts you show them, they remain intolerant to the truth. Or I think the buzzword these days is, what is that? They're factose intolerant, meaning factoids and facts have no bearing on what they believe. And I have seen these people called delusionals.
Oh, boy. Here we go. All right, so we have to go into this. Apparently, we need another little school lesson, all right? So we have this strange subjugation of the generations. Each one has to have its own freaking title, right? We have the greatest generation, 1901 to 1922. Then we've got the silent generation. You know why? Exactly. They don't advocate for themselves. Then we got the baby boomers from 46 to 64. Then we got Generation X and the millennials and Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Then we're going to have Beta and Gamma. We're going to run it. We're going to be going to hurricane names for freaking generations of Americans. I am sick of this stupid meteorological infarction that we're experiencing in this country.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Yes.
The response of the present administration, by the way, the Biden administration, has been to create some commissions to study what are being called, they're called tirades. So now Biden has created a federal tirade commission. The thing about this commission, and they're hiring right now, they are going to be talking in terms of parental guidance. Now, what does that mean? It means that a lot of parents these days are in need of guidance. I guess that's going to fall to their children. Biden is also starting a new Insecurities and Sex Change Commission. He's appointed one of his old buddies to run it. This guy used to be a sheep farmer. I know that's something you said.
Yeah, I actually consulted on the formation of that, boss, but just again, one of the many hats I wear.
But now let me just add something else. While Biden is creating these new commissions like the Federal Tirade Commission, he's also expanding the Obamacare with new provisions. For example, if you don't have a backbone, you can get one under the current provisions of the law, and apparently a lot of Republican senators are signing up to get medical intervention?
They'll never get past the licensing. The final exam is going to require them to testify at the January 6th Commission. It should.
It would be problematical, yeah. One other thing, while I'm talking about Joe Biden and while Frank is talking about what we should know.
The indecision in the Capitol. I mean, I don't understand these diverging views that you're saying. And then we have, it's like Schrodinger's Capitol. You don't know what's in there. You don't know how someone's going to vote or testify until it actually happens.
So what Biden recently said that I found stimulating, he said that and this is because of gasoline prices, he said, Exxon made more money than God last year. Well, we have a chart here. It it is actually talking about how much money God made and how much money Exxon made, and it turns out that he's absolutely right. But one thing about it is God has been in some investments that turned out to be pretty squirrely. For example, he had put a bunch of money in an antenna-based mobile shoe store venture, and that went nowhere. That's why, you know, Exxon didn't put any money in that, but Biden did. And then he coughed up a few $1,000,000 because he had to settle with some Jersey fishermen. I never understood this lawsuit. It's called, it's described in the Lars Noodle Describer recently. It's a settlement, one of those things where you can't get details. Everybody signs an agreement, says we're not going to talk about it. But anyway, yeah, the Exxon made a lot more money than God did in recent years. So a lot of people, I'll just finish with this. A lot of people are trying to still buy a house even though they're costing more than anybody has ever made. Now they're selling a half-bedroom house on the market, and I'm even seeing little tiny, well, they look like outside porta-can type things. They're about 4 by 4 by 8 with an antenna. We can buy them for hardly anything.
Yes, that. In fact, I looked at that one as I am in the market. It is still available. It has a Murphy bed to save space and a Murphy kitchen also to save space, but unfortunately it also had a Murphy toilet, which I will not burden you with details, but it was very unfortunate. It was not
It
amenable.
doesn't work.
No, it made a terrible mess. It is not amenable to myself or my cats, James and Peggy and Esperanza and Small Charles.
Okay.
And Beth,
Well-
didn't Amber Heard have a Murphy toilet mishap?
That is, as I am told, yes.
Well, let me just tell you, we have more to say, but we don't have any time left. So what that means is you're gonna have to go study what we told you, because there's just so much going on that's all bad news that that all we can do is warn you what to look out for. And let me tell you something. It is so hot these days. I guess that's a good place to close. It is so hot now.
How hot is it?
I have seen some street vendors who don't even need a food truck anymore. They just they just dish it out on the sidewalk, and they used to fry eggs on the sidewalk. Now they do their whole menu on the sidewalk.
And they get when dogs chase cats now, they do so in slow motion. But it's that hot.
Well, I think we got to the end again.